In a world that proudly called itself civilized, one woman's body was paraded like a spectacle, stripped of dignity in life and in death. They called her the Hottentot Venus. But her real name was Sarah Baartman, a woman whose beauty, culture, and humanity were stolen by the greed and cruelty of colonialism. Her body would not come home for almost 200 years. Sarah Baartman was born in 1789 in the Gamtoos Valley, Eastern Cape, South Africa. She belonged to the Khoikhoi people, one of the world's oldest continuous cultures. In her community, her physical traits, steatopygia, the accumulation of fat on the buttocks, and elongated labia, were celebrated as signs of health, fertility, and beauty. In Khorasan tradition, these traits carried spiritual and social meaning, far from the twisted fascination they would later provoke in the West. But Sarah's childhood coincided with South Africa's colonial expansion, where European settlers' hunger for land, power, and control was erasing indigenous ways of life. By her teenage years, Sarah had lost her parents. War, disease, and colonial displacement left her vulnerable. She began working as a servant at the Cape Colony. It was here she encountered Hendrik Caesars, a free black man, and William Dunlop, a British ship surgeon. Dunlop promised Sarah wealth and fame if she came to Europe to perform, claiming she'd be an exotic star. The contract, written in Dutch, was likely never fully explained to her. She couldn't read it. In 1810, she boarded a ship to London, leaving behind her homeland. London was fascinated and horrified by Sarah's appearance. She was exhibited in freak shows, forced to stand on stage for hours while crowds gawked, laughed, and touched her. They compared her to animals. Promoters dressed her in tight flesh-colored clothing to exaggerate her figure, marketing her as the Hottentot Venus. She had no control over her earnings, her movements, or even her body. Abolitionists were outraged. In 1810, the African Institution took her case to court, arguing she was being held against her will. But Sarah, under the gaze of her handlers, told the court she had agreed to perform. Whether it was loyalty, fear, or coercion, we will never know. In 1814, Sarah was sold to a new handler and taken to Paris. Here, she became both an object of entertainment and a subject for racial science. The emerging field of anthropology, dominated by white European men, claimed African women were biologically less evolved. Sarah's body was used to prove their theories. Scientists measured every part of her, sketching and documenting her in ways that stripped away her humanity. When the shows no longer made money, she was forced into sex work. Poverty, disease, and alcoholism followed. On December 29, 1815, Sarah Baartman died in Paris. She was just 26 years old. Even in death, Sarah was denied peace. The French anatomist Georges Cuvier dissected her body. Her skeleton, brain, and genitals were preserved in jars, displayed at the Musée de l'Homme in Paris for over 150 years. Generations of visitors stared at her remains, a silent witness to centuries of racism disguised as science. It was only in the late 20th century, as South Africa emerged from apartheid, that her story began to shift. In 1994, President Nelson Mandela formally requested France to return her remains. After years of debate, France agreed. In 2002, almost 2 centuries after she left, Sarah Baartman was finally laid to rest in her homeland. Today, Sarah's story forces us to confront how colonialism dehumanized those it sought to dominate and how pseudoscience justified cruelty. She was never the Hottentot Venus. She was a woman, a daughter, a part of one of the oldest cultures on Earth. And her name was Sarah Baartman.